first of all, it's, in my mind, it's much more of a wholeness and a completeness than light and darkness. If you look at just the day and the night, yes, we have a sunrise, yes, we have a moonrise, yes, we have a sunset, and yet there's light long after sunset. There's light long before sunrise. This is what dawn and dusk refer to. And so there's not really a very, very exact fine line where you can say, half a second ago it was light and now it's dark. Or half a second ago it was dark and now it's light. Here is light, here is dark. And the reason that that's important for me is that they're all part of a whole. And when you think, though, of positive vibes and our obsession with them, there's a story I'll tell about this. There was a fantastically wonderful, wonderful spiritual teacher, spiritual master who passed away a few years ago, who lived in Rishikesh, named Swami Dayanandji Maharaj. And one year in our International Yoga Festival, he gave a talk about this. And he was talking about the Western sort of New Age obsession with this just good vibrations, positive thinking. And what happens with that is it's truth, but it's truth pulled out of context. And so our scriptures, our sages, our rishis, our saints emphasize, as you think, so you create your reality. And of course, we all would love our reality to be positive. So why not think positive? I mean, who's gonna think about poverty and misery if that's what I'm going to be creating by thinking about it? So we all need to think positively because of the impact of our thoughts on our world. And what we now know neurologically, which I speak about in here almost every night, is the literal, physical, energetic impact of our thoughts on the world. And yet, it's not as simple as it's been made in a lot of the New Agey world. And so what Swami Dayanandji Maharaj said was fantastic. So I'm going to share it with you all. He said he was speaking about positive thinking and this obsession, as you said, with positive thinking. And he said, one day I was with a good friend of mine who is very, very fat, and he has diabetes and he has high blood pressure, and the doctors have put him on a very strict diet. And he said, and I see him one day eating a donut. And he said, and I said to him, hey friend, how can you possibly be eating a donut? You've got diabetes, you're obese, you've got high blood pressure, your doctors have put you on this very strict diet. A donut is, nothing but fried, greasy, sugary, fat and flour. How can you possibly be eating a donut? And he said, and my friend said to me, well, see, Swamiji, I have started a practice of positive thinking. And see, the donut has two parts. And one part, you are right, is this outer circle, which is fatty and greasy and sugary and bad for my diabetes and bad for my blood pressure. But if instead of focusing on the outer part, I focus on the hole in the middle, then I'm all good. Then there's no problem. He said, so in my practice of positive thinking, I've learned to focus on the hole in the middle rather than on the outside. So Swamiji had given this as obviously an example of the ridiculous lengths to which we go in the belief in just thinking it so will make it so. So yes, it has absolutely become what it's become is a shortcut. And this is not the only example of deep, deep Eastern spiritual traditions, whether from India, whether from China, whether from Cambodia, whether from Thailand, whether from any of the Eastern ancient spiritual traditions that get sort of co-opted by a new age West that's looking for shortcuts, that's looking for life hacks, that's looking for ways to get there quicker. And so what you see is, and this is one example, you see pieces of it pulled out, like what you think you create, which is true. But it's true not just because focusing on the hole in the donut is somehow going to render me unimpacted by the grease and the sugar and the jelly and the, but because that which we think is how we live. And so the power of positive thinking, the power of intention, the power of my thought has a very important component to it, which is action. And so if I think positively, as in, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be able to make a difference in the world, this relationship is going to be full of love and compassion, whether on an interpersonal level, on a global level, whatever it may be. If that's what I think, if I meet you, and what I'm telling myself is, he's going to become one of my best friends. He's going to become one of my best friends. What a great man. Well, I'm going to act differently towards you. My entire behavior, my words, my speech, how much time I give you, my demeanor, the choices I make, are all going to be based on that power of thought, what I was thinking about you. If, on the other hand, I've pre-decided this guy is a complete waste of time, I'm going to act differently towards you. My demeanor will be different, my speech will be different, everything will be different. And so a week later, if you look at our relationship, in the first case, we've become great friends. In the second case, we've had nothing to do with each other. And I can look at it and say, it's the power of my thoughts. See, I knew it from the beginning. Which is true. And my thought led to a series of choices, a series of actions, a series of behaviors that have created where we are today. I didn't just go thought end boom like this. And what's happened in the West is we've pulled it out of context. And what's gotten lost in a lot of the cases is that chain of action and behavior and choices and decisions that actually create our life. And so in this urge, or this obsession, as you say, on positive thinking, what's also happened, the other side of it is, in addition to not doing the actions and just sort of expecting that if I have the right meditation, or I have the right guru, or I have the right mantra, I should be able to just, meditate my way to wealth, or meditate my way to success, when actually there's actions and decisions and choices that must be made. And the other side of it is, it has labeled existence. And when you label and you put anything in boxes, there's always an inside the box and an out of the box. And if I've created a box of positive vibrations, positive thoughts, well, in my box is good things. Success, health, joy, happiness. Which means there's no place in my box for anything else. And the problem with that is that that's just not how the world is. Which means I've cut myself off from reality. And I cannot simultaneously be living connected to the world in an experience of unity, in an experience of spirit, when I've boxed up the only things that I'll allow inside, when my filter is so small. Here's what can come in, here's what can come in, here's what come in, everything else stays out. Well, spirituality is all about an expansion. It's not a contraction. The joy and the peace that people find in spirituality is not because they push out that which does not make them joyful or peaceful. It's because they've expanded the sense of self so much that they're able to stay joyful and peaceful, even in the face of what enters there. You know, it's like the example I give frequently where I'll say, okay, here we go, glass of water. If you take a rock and you throw it in this glass of water, what's going to happen? Water will come out, exactly. It'll splash, water will come out. Big impact. Negative impact, you can say, if ultimately your goal was to keep all the water inside and calm. Take the same rock, throw it into my bathtub full of water. What happens? Yeah, not much. A little bit of ripples. A little bit. Not much. Take the same rock, throw it in the ocean. What happens? Virtually nothing in the scheme of the ocean. And what most of us try to do, and where this teaching of positivity has gotten, in my opinion, where it's gone a little awry, is it has said, okay, my goal is to keep the water of myself calm, okay? To stay peaceful. No ripples, no splashes. And what it's done is it has therefore created a container around itself that is so small to ensure that not even the tiniest pebble could get inside and create ripples. But ultimately what spirituality is about is expanding the sense of self so much that you are the ocean. So yeah, there are rocks. But because I'm identified as the ocean rather than the tiny glass of water, I'm able to stay peaceful. I'm able to stay anchored in positivity despite that which is happening. So I wouldn't say that we need to go out looking for the darkness so much as that we need to expand our sense of self to be an experience that encompasses all. And when you talk about encompassing all, well, along with health, there's sickness. Along with life, there's death. I mean, you can't push death out of any reality. I mean, you can, but only for a very short period of time. And so when you think about ultimate highest truth, it can't be something that's dependent upon how long your loved ones are going to live. Dependent upon how long you can go before getting the next flu. Dependent upon how long it's going to be before the stock market crashes or your house catches on fire. I mean, because we can push a lot out of our lives, but you can't push life out of your life. And ultimately, we're all going to get sick. Ultimately, we're all going to die. Ultimately, we're all going to lose our loved ones. It's just part of the package of life. And so any spiritual practice that is so limiting is one that I would not endorse very strongly, since ultimately when we talk about spirituality, it's always eternal, right? I mean, Sanatan Dharma, eternal way of life. It's not the way of life until you get sick. the way of life until you lose a loved one, the way of life until the stock market crashes or until your house burns down. So it's got to be something that it enables us to have it all. And, in nature it's all there, the dry seasons, the wet seasons, the hot seasons, the cold seasons, flowering seasons, non-flowering seasons. And so I like to think of it like that rather than dark and light or good and bad. Because, it's all there. It's all part of a whole rather than one extreme over here and one extreme over there. It's if we open our spirituality to include and embrace and become one with the light, the dark, the wet, the dry, the cold, the hot, the flowering, the non-flowering, then you know that you're connecting to creation.